The Double Standard of Aging by Susan Sontag. How old are you? The person asking the question is anybody. The respondent is a woman, quote, of a certain age, end of quote, as the French say discreetly. That age might be anywhere from her early 20s to her late 50s. If the question is impersonal, routine information requested when she applies for a driver's license, a credit card, a passport, she will probably force herself to answer truthfully. Filling out a marriage license application, if her future husband is even slightly her junior, she may long to subtract a few years. Probably she won't. Competing for a job, her chances often partly depend on being the, quote, right age, end of quote. And if hers isn't right, she will lie if she thinks she can get away with it. Making her first visit to a new doctor, perhaps feeling particularly vulnerable at the moment she's asked, she will probably hurry through the correct answer. But if the question is only what people call personal, if she's asked by a new friend, a casual acquaintance, a neighbor's child, a co-worker in an office, store, factory, her response is harder to predict. She may sidestep the question with a joke or refuse it with playful indignation. Don't you know you're not supposed to ask a woman her age? Or hesitating a moment, embarrassed but defiant, she may tell the truth, or she may lie. But neither truth, evasion, nor lie relieves the unpleasantness of that question. For a woman to be obliged to state her age after, quote, a certain age, end of quote, is always a miniature ordeal. If the question comes from a woman, she will feel less threatened than if it comes from a man. Other women are, after all, comrades in sharing the same potential for humiliation. She will be less arch, less coy. But she probably still dislikes answering and may not tell the truth. Bureaucratic formalities accepted, whoever asks a woman this question after, quote, a certain age, end of quote, is ignoring a taboo and possibly being impolite or downright hostile. Almost everyone acknowledges that once she passes an age that is actually quite young, a woman's exact age ceases to be a legitimate target of curiosity. After childhood, the year of a woman's birth becomes her secret, her private property. It is something of a dirty secret. To answer truthfully is always indiscreet. The discomfort a woman feels each time she tells her age is quite independent of the anxious awareness of human mortality that everyone has from time to time. There is a normal sense in which nobody, men and women alike, relishes growing older. After 35, any mention of one's age carries with it the reminder that one is probably closer to the end of one's life than to the beginning. There is nothing unreasonable in that anxiety, nor is there any abnormality in the anguish and anger that people who are really old, in their 70s and 80s, feel about the implacable waning of their powers, physical and mental. Advanced age is undeniably a trial, however stoically it may be endured. It is a shipwreck, no matter with what courage elderly people insist on continuing the voyage. But the objective, sacred pain of old age is of another order than the subjective, profane pain of aging. Old age is a genuine ordeal, one that men and women undergo in a similar way. Growing older is mainly an ordeal of the imagination, a moral disease, a social pathology, intrinsic to which is the fact that it afflicts women much more than men. It is particularly women who experience growing older, everything that comes before one is actually old, with such distaste and even shame. The emotional privileges this society confers upon youth stir up some anxiety about getting older in everybody. All modern urbanized societies, unlike tribal, rural societies, condescend to the values of maturity and heap honors on the joys of youth. This revaluation of the life cycle in favor of the young brilliantly serves a secular society whose idols are ever-increasing industrial productivity and the unlimited cannibalization of nature. Such a society must create a new sense of the rhythms of life in order to incite people to buy more, to consume and throw away faster. People let the direct awareness they have of their needs, of what really gives them pleasure, be overruled by commercialized images of happiness and personal well-being. And in this imagery designed to stimulate ever more avid levels of consumption, The most popular metaphor for happiness is youth. I would insist that it is a metaphor, not a literal description. Youth is a metaphor for energy, restless mobility, appetite, for the state of wanting. This equating of well-being with youth makes everyone naggingly aware of exact age, one's own and that of other people. In primitive and pre-modern societies, people attach much less importance to dates. When lives are divided into long periods with stable responsibilities and steady ideals, and hypocrises, and hypocrisies, hypocrisies, and hypocrisies, the exact number of years someone has lived becomes a trivial fact. There is hardly any reason to mention, even to know, the year in which one was born. Most people in non-industrial societies are not sure exactly how old they are. People in industrial societies are haunted by numbers. They take an almost obsessional interest in keeping the scorecard of aging, convinced that anything above a low total is some kind of bad news. In an era in which people actually live longer and longer, what now amounts to the latter two-thirds of everyone's life is shadowed by a poignant apprehension of unremitting loss. The prestige of youth afflicts everyone in this society to some degree. Men, too, are prone to periodic bouts of depression about aging. For instance, when feeling insecure or unfulfilled or insufficiently rewarded in their jobs. But men rarely panic about aging in the way women often do. Getting older is less profoundly wounding for a man. For in addition to the propaganda for youth that puts both men and women on the defensive as they age, there is a double standard about aging that denounces women with special severity. Society is much more permissive about aging in men, as it is more tolerant of the sexual infidelities of husbands. Men are allowed to age without penalty. In several ways, their women are not. This society offers even fewer rewards for aging women than it does to men. Being physically attractive counts much more in a woman's life than in a man's, but beauty, identified, as it is for women, with youthfulness, does not stand up well to age. Exceptional mental powers can increase with age, but women are rarely encouraged to develop their minds above dilettante standards. Because the wisdom considered the special province of women is, quote, eternal, end of quote, an age-old intuitive knowledge about the emotions to which a repertoire of facts, worldly experience, and the methods of rational analysis have nothing to contribute. Living a long time does not promise women an increase in wisdom either. The private skills expected of women are exercised early and, with the exception of talent for making love, are not the kind that enlarge with experience. Masculinity is identified with competence, autonomy, self-control, qualities which the disappearance of youth does not threaten. Competence in most of the activities expected from men, physical sports excepted, increases with age. Femininity is identified with incompetence, helplessness, passivity, non-competitiveness, being nice. Age does not improve these qualities. Middle-class men feel diminished by aging, even while still young, if they have not yet shown distinction in their careers or made a lot of money. And any tendencies they have toward hypochondria will get worse in middle age, focusing with particular nervousness on the specter of heart attacks and the loss of virility. Their aging crisis is linked to that terrible pressure on men to be successful that precisely defines their membership in the middle class. Women rarely feel anxious about their age because they haven't succeeded at something. The work that women do outside the home rarely counts as a form of achievement, only as a way of earning money. Most employment available to women mainly exploits the training they have been receiving since early childhood to be servile, to be both supportive and parasitical, to be unadventurous. They can have menial, low-skilled jobs in light industries, which offer as feeble a criterion of success as housekeeping. They can be secretaries, clerks, sales personnel, maids, research assistants, waitresses, social workers, prostitutes, nurses, teachers, telephone operators, public transcriptions of the servicing and nurturing roles that women have in family life. Women fill very few executive posts, are rarely found suitable for large corporate or political responsibilities, and form only a tiny contingent in the liberal professions, apart from teaching. They are virtually barred from jobs that involved an expert, intimate relation with machines or an aggressive use of the body, or that carry any physical risk or sense of adventure. The jobs this society deems appropriate to women are auxiliary, calm activities that do not compete with but aid what men do. Besides being less well paid, most work women do has a lower ceiling of advancement and gives meager outlet to normal wishes to be powerful. All outstanding work by women in this society is voluntary. Most women are too inhibited by the social disapproval attached to their being ambitious and aggressive. Inevitably, women are exempted from the dreary panic of middle-aged men whose achievements seem paltry, who feel stuck on the job ladder or fear being pushed off it by someone younger. But they are also denied most of the real satisfactions that men derive from work, satisfactions that often do increase with age.